Welcome to the Fit Girl Magic podcast. If you are ready to find your inner magic, develop great habits, and a rock steady mindset to feel confident, comfortable, and fit in your body, you are in the right place. I am Kim Barnes Jefferson, and I'll be giving you weekly doses of health, fitness, and life tips sprinkled with humor and real talk. If you're ready to be consistent without the stress of perfection, magic makers, it's time to slip into your favorite pair of PJs, grab some coffee, kick back, and listen to today's show. This week's iTunes review is brought to you by Jackie O. Jazz Hands. She writes a great, funny podcast about real topics we all struggle with. Kim gives great advice and support to people to live their best life. That just fills my heart. Thank you so much for taking the time to write me that 5-star review. And for those of you who have yet to leave that 5-star review, all you have to do is go on to iTunes or wherever you listen to this podcast and do the same thing, and I will read it on the air. So thank you so much, Jackie O. Jazz Hands. It fills me up when I read those reviews from the heart. Enjoy the podcast.
Hey, Magic Makers. I hope you are having a great day. And today, I want to talk about something that is like, I'm calling it sneaky, like something that is sly, something that you probably shrug off as, this is just how my life is right now, or this is just how life is. And I'm talking hidden stressors, right? These are the ones that we say to ourselves, like, this is just normal life, right? And we don't even realize that it is straight up wrecking our energy, our mood, our sleep, and our weight line, and maybe even your sanity. And I wanted to talk about this hidden stressor because for the past year, I've been wearing an Oura ring. And one of the reasons why I started wearing an Oura ring was for one, I wanted a better idea of like what was going on in my sleep. Last year I doubled down and I was like, I'm going to tame this sleep beast and I'm going to get a good flippin' nice sleep come hell or high water. And one of the things I noticed when wearing the Oura ring, it talked about my stress. And there were times in the day when I was just sitting here at my desk and it said I was in a stress mode. And I was like, I'm doing a podcast. How am I stressed out? I feel good. Like, I love doing this podcast. I love when I am talking to guests. Why would my body say this is stress? And so it really kind of made me kind of go down this rabbit hole because I'd say I am a recovering stress ball. Like back in the day, I was like the girl who I lived off of Tums. I lived off of Advil because I always had either, heartburn or headache because I was living in such a stressed out state of mind. And so seeing myself stressed, I was like, my God, I don't ever really think I'm stressed when I'm doing, things I actually love. So I really want to sit down here and talk about the 7 hidden stressors that might be causing you stress, even though you are not thinking that you're stressed, right? Because most people, when you think stress, you think you're stressed about, a deadline at work, or it's a stressful, busy time at work, or, something's going on in a relationship or finances, or something's going on with your children or some other, relationship that you might be having. And there are other things that stress us out that we don't even think are causing you stress. And that stress is probably what's causing you sabotage, because for most of the women I work with, right, it's about stubborn weight loss. It's the belly fat that I work with women on. And it really kind of stuck up with me because I was having a conversation with a client and I was talking about inflammation. And I was saying that, for her, what I'm seeing in the picture she sent me, I'm not seeing what's truly, belly fat. What I'm seeing is inflammation. And a lot of times inflammation comes from dysregulation of stress. And she's like, well, I don't feel stressed. And I was like, okay, let's talk about some of the things that might be these kind of hidden stressors for you.
Ladies, I see you. You're doing the diet, the endless cardio, the carb cutting, the fasting,
praying to the gods, please let this be the plan that finally works. Yet that stubborn belly fat won't budge. What if the problem isn't you, but your approach? Yeah. That's exactly why I created 5 ways to crack the belly fat code. It is a free, private podcast mini course designed for women over 40 who are done guessing and ready for a proven no BS plan that will actually work with your body, not against it. And over the mini course, I'm going to be breaking down why everything you're doing isn't working and why it's not your fault. The number one mindset shift that changes the game for belly fat loss, how to work smarter, not harder. Spoiler alert, it ain't putting more time in the gym and it ain't cutting on your calories. The ultimate belly fat playbook, simple, sustainable, science-backed strategies. Yeah. No gimmicks, no BS, just real practical strategies that you can actually stick to. Sounds like you? Yeah, I got you. Do me a favor. Go back into the link in my bio and you'll be able to get instant access to all 5 episodes and binge them. They are no more than 10 minutes each. Or you can listen to them at your own pace. So if you are tired of wasting your time on things that don't work, this is for you. Let's finally crack that belly fat code together. All right, magic makers, you got this. I know that right now she has a child that is moving out of the house. And I'm like, are you thinking about all the things that could potentially happen to your child moving out of the house? Will they be able to afford it? Like safety, security, blah, blah, blah. She's like, well, yeah. And I'm like, even though you don't think that's stressing you out, it is stressing you out, right? Because even though it's like here in the back of your brain, your body doesn't understand that like, I'm not in danger, but it's perceiving that you're in danger. So it's starting to kind of like pump up the adrenaline, pump up the things that are trying to keep you safe. And when adrenaline isn't being used for you to go off and fight off a bear, it's like, let me stay on ready 5, because even though you're not thinking about it in this moment, somewhere in the background, it's happening in your body. It's like, I need to be ready just in case the saber-toothed tiger comes back. And, even though we've moved from, thousands of years beyond the cave, there's a piece of our reptilian brain that still thinks that, we're, living in the cave and waiting for, danger around every corner. So that stress is what's called mental load, right? Especially as women, we're the keeper of all the things. We're the keeper of, when is the dog supposed to go to the vet? When are your kids supposed to go, get their braces tuned up? When is the check due for, soccer? When's dance recitals? Christmas, Thanksgiving, Hanukkah, all the things. When is, the school, what's that? The night open house. When's the school open house? Those things, like how many rolls of toilet paper are left, right? I make fun of it to my husband. He's like, oh, we just have things. I'm like, yeah, because you believe in magic fairies live around here. I am the magic fucking fairy, right? And that. Even though I don't think that's stressful, I'm keeping a mental tick mark of when do we need freaking toilet paper? When do we need toothpaste? When it comes to mental load, we're anticipating things. We're identifying what is a problem. We're trying to decide and we're trying to monitor things all the living day. And that's why it's a problem. Because even though we're like, oh, it's just who I am, we're the first person that, if you said, oh, let's go on vacation, all of a sudden we go into anticipation mode. Okay, where are we going to stay? Who needs a bathing suit? What are we going to do? How am I going to transfer the money? Like those, all of a sudden we're like, boop, 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 where everyone else is like, yeah, we're going on vacation. And, as women, we just go automatically jump into I need to get this done. And so even though you don't think that's a stressor, if that's something that is always putting your brain in overdrive, right? That constant cognitive load is putting you into a cortisol spike, right? Because it's saying, oh my God, I need to hop into action, AKA tap on the adrenals, pump up the cortisone, pump up the adrenaline so I can, I can handle this. And, the other kind of story that I have about my client, Lori, is that, she's the breadwinner of her family. And so for her, like the idea of, she's the breadwinner, but she's also the mom. So she's trying to make sure that there's dinner on the table, and she's trying to make sure that her kids, are off to school, and her kids are, there's someone picking them up while she's at work. And, and I grew up with a single mom, so I know the juggle game, because you're the only person doing all the things. And so that in and of itself is this like hidden mental load. But here's where, so yes, I pointed out all the poop on the carpet, but how do you get around it? How do you like solve this? The big thing here is that like you got to work with your family, and you have to ask for help. And one of the other hidden stresses I'll talk about later is that like, the women I work with are type A++ with a side of A++. And, we're one of those people who like, I get shit done. I don't need to lean on someone. Yeah, in this case, you do. You do need to lean on someone. You do need to start delegating things. And it could just be something as simple as you're in charge of dinner. It could be if you go on vacation, you divvy it up. It's like, okay, you're in charge of coming up with the activities that we do. Each family member is in charge of making sure that they know if they have a bathing suit or not, right? It's, us kind of not being the person who's the keeper of the master list, but saying, okay, we might be the keeper of the master list, but we delegate. We're like, okay, you're in charge of this, you're in charge of that. And being able to do that and not freak out and not feel like we need to micromanage, because I see that a lot. A lot of my clients will be like, well, if I give it to my family, they're just not going to do it, right? We're not going to do it the way I want to do. Let go and just, give them guardrails. Just say, hey, when I go on vacation, one of my guardrails is that I don't want to have every moment of my day scheduled. Right? That for me, go on vacation. If I can't read 1 to 2 books cover to cover, it wasn't a vacation. I just want to sit on my ass. That is vacation for me. And my husband has a really good friend, and we go on vacation with him from time to time. And I'm like, I am not running around God's creation. If I miss one sight of this place, it's okay. And that's my guardrail. I was like, I need at least, I will do one activity a day, but I am not starting like setting an alarm, like hard pass. On vacation, I am not setting an alarm. So every other day I can do something, but at least a few days I need to sit on my ass and someone bring me something. So ask yourself, what are some of the guardrails that you could put? My client Lori's like, dinner, it's really hard. I'm running home from work and I got to cook dinner. And I was like, well, have your family do it. She's like, well, she goes, I got teenagers. And she's like, I would eat pizza every night. And I was like, I feel that. And I said, well, here's you are the mom. Be like, hey, we're not having pizza every night. That's a guardrail. And if we are having pizza, have them order you a salad. I don't know of a pizza place on the planet that doesn't offer some type of salad now. So it's like, add those, ask for help, but throw in the guardrails, right? Because if I say, if I have a particular way something's supposed to be done, let's talk through like, what's it going to be done? Let's talk through that, like every night can't be pizza. Some nights we're going to have Chinese or Chipotle or whatever it is. But we need to start taking all of that list making and all the things that we have up here in our brain and start to get it out of our head, write it down, create systems that other people can support us, but also allow us to just not always be the go-to person, right? I think we get so caught up in being needed and being, being the pillar of the family. And sometimes we're like, sometimes the pillar needs to like delegate and, not do all the things. The second one is lack of sleep. And I get it. I know that, 3 a.m., you're sweating your balls off because you got a hot flash. But it's our nervous system is waving a red flag. And our nervous system, our hormones, especially at this time, we're just so intertwined. And we don't at this age, in that 40 something age, we know our hormones are going as wild as they were back when we were in our preteens, early teens. And we just don't have the progesterone to manage the stress like we used to. Ergo, that's why, a lot of us have trouble sleeping. And so one of the latest research says that the age between 40 and 60, so that's literally 20 years of your life, you're struggling with sleep. One, primarily menopause. Two, is that 40 to 60 age, that's, when most of us have hit the peak of our careers. Our children are getting ready to, they're at this point, some of our kids are teenagers, preteen, adults, and we're navigating all the random changes that are going on with them, changes that are going on with us, navigating the corporate ladder, and just, also on the backside, navigating our aging parents. So there's a lot of moving parts in your life right now that might be keeping you up. So one of the biggest things that, if you've listened to my podcast for any amount of time, I'm the queen about having a bedtime routine. My wind down routine, it's my tiger time. I have 2 tiger times of the day. One is my workout. Like that is like, I know that when I have my workout or I take my walk in the morning, that is me. That's Kim time. And after that, I can be here for anybody else. I can do whatever you want. But that, like 90 minutes in the morning, that is my time for a coffee, journaling, a workout, and that knows I did something for myself today. The second piece is my wind down. My wind down at night, I look forward to that. I relish my wind down. It's like I read a good book. I have some breath work. It's just, I look forward to both parts of those days. And that's my self-care. And I want that for you. I want you to find something. It's either that morning, evening, hell, you could be a double dipper like me, but find what is it going to take for you to your body to really understand it's time to fire down the engines. So one of the things that I've been working on a lot, and I live in New England, right? So it's just cold AF, it feels like 9 months out of the year. But I've been really working on morning sunshine. And so for some people, if you live in a warmer climate or even in the summertime, spring, actually go outside 5 minutes and without sunglasses and let the sun actually, shine in your eyes, right? Actually shine, have your corneas get the actual right. But if it's cold, stand at the window, right? Stand in the window and just get some sunshine on your face and just get some sunshine in your eyes. Regular exercise. And here I'm not saying go for a regular beat down. I'm saying, you know me, I love a good walk, pop a good, scare the shit out of myself podcast in my ears and I'm all in. But a good walk, a good workout in the morning, and I am a happy camper. And then the one thing that I find I want people to think more about, and this could be surprising, check for yourself for sleep apnea. A second reason why I got the Aura Ring is that it tracks your breathing. And it was very interesting. I've actually done a sleep apnea test, and it was surprising that I have mild sleep apnea. And so, I now sleep with a mouth guard. And then I made my husband get tested, and he also sleeps with a mouth guard. And yeah, the funny part is that both of us were like, when we were both getting tested for it, we're both like, we are not wearing that CPAP machine. I am not looking like, Ghost Rider when I go to bed. And and honestly, I'm like, I don't like sleeping on my back. And so I wanted something that was like, wouldn't disrupt my sleep, because I'm like, sleeping on my back just is the most uncomfortable thing on the planet. But, here's where you kind of start to dig in and be like, all right, how can I get a better night's sleep? And one of the big things I can tell you is, one, set a bedtime, right? Like, you are like a 9-year-old, and it's not about passing out in front of the TV. It's like, if you got to get up at 7 a.m., you're like, okay, I'm like lights out 10, 11 o'clock, and like, do your best to be able to get that sleep in. And then the next one is alcohol. And, I feel like back, odd. I started competing in 2007, 2007, I started competing. And I remember I wouldn't drink for, like, I would stop drinking in January and I wouldn't drink again until like the end of June. And I remember I'd be like, yep, I'm on the wagon. I remember being on the wagon for 6 months back then. Most people were like, oh my God, are you okay? What's going on? Can't you just have one drink? And for me, drinking, if I had to pick my battles, I would rather eat than have a drink. That was how it was. I was like, I would rather have more food and not drink. And so now it's interesting, I want to say in the last couple of years, you hear more about like dry January, sober October, and more and more companies are coming out with non-alcoholic options. There's plenty of like amazing non-alcoholic wines, beers. I mean, I just heard a stat recently that Guinness makes a zero alcohol Guinness. I don't know. I'm gonna show my naivety here. I don't know if Guinness is considered beer or if Guinness would be like, we're our own category. But anyway, Guinness Zero is a number one selling beer, which is interesting because Guinness has such a storied past, storied history. But more and more brands are coming out with a non-alcoholic version of one of their popular brands, or new brands are starting. They're just like, we are doing the zero alcohol thing, and that's who we are. And, so now, you have a lot of people who are, sober curious, and, they're not saying that they have a problem with alcohol, but they're saying, I'm going to explore what would my life be like without alcohol in it. And I had a woman on, probably 3 or 4 years ago, talking about it. What I'll do is I'll link that in the show notes. But it's interesting because as we age, it's quietly like alcohol is quietly like messing with your sleep, like jacking up blood sugar and bumping up inflammation. I know, it's such a, this time of life, there's just so many things that are just kind of stepping in our way to like, stop that forward momentum, it's kind of like if we were playing like football, like, a lot of these things are popping up and playing defense against us, right? Like we're trying to score, we're trying to get results, and we have the mental load, we have sleep, and now we have alcohol, just like doing whatever it can to like block our forward momentum. And so one of the reasons why alcohol is a challenge for ladies over 40 is that as we age, it becomes harder for us to hold on to water in our body. So our overall total water volume takes a tank. So if I'm not drinking enough water, which most people will always say, yeah, girl, I need to drink more water. So if I'm not drinking enough water, but I'm also drinking alcohol, it's harder for me to how many of us wake up the next morning after having like 2 or 3 glasses of wine and we're just like, damn. And it feels like, a freight train came at you. Well, that's, alcohol is a diuretic. So, I'm already low on water just because I'm not drinking enough water. Then I throw alcohol in. So it just takes my tank all the way down to 0 or below. So, and because I don't have that much water on board in my body and I'm drinking alcohol, it's really hard for my body to dilute the alcohol to mitigate the effects that alcohol would have on my body. So the second part is when my body fat is higher and my muscle mass is lower, it's harder for me to metabolize alcohol. And just, as a act of getting older, once I hit 35, my muscle starts to not be on board as much unless I am, doing my best to strength train, but I'm losing 3 to 5% of my muscle every decade. And so, and because I don't have the muscle to help me metabolize the booze, it becomes even harder for me to metabolize the booze. So, and, you know, one of the other things of alcohol at this age is that it increases my hot flashes. You know, on the days that I have, you know, several years ago, on the days I would have a drink, I would literally sit there and like feel like, you know, I am the sun just the sun would just smile, you know, shining on my face and like burning me up. And that also increases our, like, we're less likely to sleep when we have alcohol in our system. So the key here is that if you are choosing to drink, make sure you're drinking and you have a full stomach and you're staying hydrated. So, you know, I'm always a big proponent of, you know, one alcoholic beverage and a glass of water just to even the score. And, you know, hell, even at this age, I would say one alcoholic beverage and 2 glasses of water, especially if you're one out in the sun, 2 if you're waking up the next morning, excuse me, and wondering what the hell happened, like feeling like a freight train, you know, ran you over. And, you know, this one right here, like the last 3 now become a little bit more of a mindset piece, become more of a taking a stand. And, you know, I was on a podcast a few months ago, and one of the things I said was, someone asked me about what's one thing someone can do to start to lose the belly fat. And I said they need to have boundaries, right? And that's not something that, you know, the host was expecting. You know, she's expecting like, oh, you need to, you know, take this supplement or, you know, eat broccoli or eat chicken or whatever. And one of the things was you need to have boundaries, because I see time and time again from, you know, women that I talk to, clients, is that they run out of time. And they run out of time because of this one thing right here. They have trouble saying no, right? You say yes when you mean hell no, right? You're being the nice girl. You don't want to rock the boat. And saying yes to everything is the quickest way to being pissed off. Because I remember I was listening to a podcast probably last year, or doesn't really matter, but I was listening to a podcast, and the woman said that, you know, how many times that she would be asked to do a speaking gig, or she would ask to do something, and, you know, the person was kind enough to get to her like with plenty of time. So let's just say someone asked me to do something 6 months from now. 6 months from now, my calendar is pretty open. You know, nothing's on my calendar. And if someone said, hey, 6 months from now, on a Tuesday at 10 a.m., could you do X? And if you look in the calendar and you're like, yeah, I got that time, that time's open. But if they asked you to do it next Tuesday, would the answer still be the same? Right? Are you just saying yes because you have the slot in your calendar? Or are you saying yes because you actually want to do it? So if that ask was for next Tuesday at 10 a.m., would you still want to do it? And that was such a profound way of thinking about your schedule, because so many of us, I'm guilty of it too. Like, you know, if someone said, hey, next Tuesday, I'm like, oh, girl, I'm out of town. I can't do it Tuesday. Sorry. And then that gives me the out, right? Because I'm out of town. I can't do it. But Tuesday, 6 months from now, I'm not out of town. And I could do it, but do I want to? And I want you to start asking yourself those questions, because that's the key to burnout. You know, back when I first started in fitness, you know, I was trying to like cobble together my business. I was trying to build my business. And when you're trying to build your business, I know that I can't be picky, right? When you're a brand new trainer, you're a brand new group fitness instructor, you can't be picky. You take the crap shifts, You take the crap times for class and you make the most of it. I know that. You got to pay your dues. And I do that. But I paid my dues to the tune of burnout, right? To the tune that I was just in that like, F it, I don't care about anything. And so it was like, if another trainer was going on vacation, sure, the client said, don't want to take a week off, I'll pick up your load. Sure, I'll teach at 6 a.m., even though I not have a 9 p.m. client. Sure, I'll work the front desk for you. And it was just like, I was always saying, sure, 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 yes, yes, yes. And yeah, great. I had the cash, but I didn't have any space in the day for anything else. I had no space in my day to grow my own business because I was so busy trying to be the team player. And so when you say, there's a woman that I absolutely love. Her name's Lisa Nichols, and she has a saying that no is a complete sentence. And that was such a game changer for me. And this was probably like 10 years ago when I went to an event and I heard her say that. And she's like, no is a complete sentence. Because when I say no, again, trying to be the good girl, trying not to be bitchy, I feel like I have to give you an excuse. Sorry, Sharon, I can't do whatever it is that you want me to do because. And Lisa Nichols was like, it's okay if you say, hey, Sharon, thanks for the invite. I am unable to do whatever it is that Sharon wants you to do. Good luck. The end. I don't have to be like, oh, it's, my kid's birthday, or, oh, I'm going to be out of town, or, oh, like, I just have to say, be polite and say no. And that has been, and that holding that no boundary has been a game changer for me, because it was so easy for me to like be in the back seat. And then when it came time to do the event, I was pissed, right? It was, oh, sure. Like, yeah, 2 months from now on a Tuesday, I can sub for you. And then all of a sudden I was like, well, I'm subbing at 9 p.m., but I also have a 6 a.m. client. And when I sub at 9 p.m., I was also taking the bus from Boston to my house. At that time of night, it was going to take me like an hour to get home. And so by the time I got in bed, it was going to be 11 o'clock. And so I'm like, turning around for my 6 a.m. client, I had to get up at 4:30 in order to like walk to the bus. So it's like, I didn't think through the process. I was just trying to be the good girl. I was just trying to be hey, Kim's so helpful. No, Kim's so freaking burnt out. That's what Kim was. So ask yourself, where can we say no? Where can we cut back in our life? And it's not about like, oh my God, I'm so mean. It's more about, hey, I got self-preservation here. I'm missing out on my workouts, because at that time, my workout sucked. I was like, I would stop working out so that I could, teach the class or whatever. Enough on that. I think I've beaten that into the horse. The next one here is perfectionism. This is another badge that I wore, and I am now in the, Perfectionist Anonymous support group. Is that, we all say, well, I have high standards. Like, yeah, I had to be flawless. I had to like be flawless at work. I had to be flawless with my workouts, flawless with my meal. Oh, sweet Jesus. Right? My need to be everything, to be spot on, to be on point was killing me, because any misstep drove me over the edge, drove me to be like, oh my God, I suck. Oh my God, this is horrible. And like, then you go into that spiral. And again, cortisol doesn't know. My adrenals don't know that it's just me beating myself up. It's like, oh, saber-toothed tiger's back. We must, pump out the adrenaline to help her run away from it. No, I'm running away from my own goddamn crazy is what I was running away from. And, the things that I learned about stopping to be a perfectionist, it's a challenge, right? It's not one of those like, I'm going to wake up tomorrow and be like, I'm no longer a perfectionist. I had to let go that when I was learning something new, I wasn't going to master it in 2.2 seconds. Right. And that's a hard pill to swallow because, for a lot of things, I'm pretty good at it. I can pretty much pick up a lot of things. And one of the biggest challenges for me was I was changing how I ate. I was changing how I worked out. And I didn't realize how much of a habit I was into. I didn't realize how much of a routine I was in until it was changed. And it was like trying to change that was, it's kind of like I do everything with my right hand. I'm right-handed. But then someone says, hey, Kim, start with your left. And it would be like just instinct to like want to reach something with my right hand because that's what I'm used to doing. But then trying to reach for my left, it's just going to feel very awkward. It's going to feel very like, oh, the world is spinning and the world's going to stop. But here's where, as I'm working through perfection, I also did a podcast on it, is that I have to fight through that. It's okay if it's hard, right? Hard means I'm actually learning something. Hard means I'm actually like starting to like rewire my brain to, make these actions, make these changes. And it's okay, right? It is okay. And I'm not saying that you don't have to have like a standard, but what I'm saying is your standard, if you would ask someone else to hold up to those standards, would they be able to? And maybe you're doing that. And maybe in relationships, you're asking your partner, you're asking your kids, you're asking, work friends to be, at this high level. And you get pissed that they're like not operating at that level, which leads to like what I call safety, right? Safety in your relationship. And this is kind of a touchy subject because it's a subject that most of us don't really want to talk about. But I want to talk about like, does your relationships make you feel safe? Do you feel like you're always on alert in your relationship? And what I mean by alert is that, I have a good friend who her husband is a recovering alcoholic. And he's like in the probably, I'd say, early stages of recovery. But she spent a lot of time worrying about him, worrying, if he didn't call her, was he drinking? If he was drinking, would it be 20 drinks and he's fall down drunk? Would it be, that phone call, right? That dreaded phone call that no one wants to get. But it's the safety of my relationship. Safety could also mean mental safety as far as, maybe you're in a relationship that your spouse, your kids are mentally and verbally abusive to you. Maybe you feel gaslit in your relationship. And that too is another like stressor because, this is definitely one, someone's like, oh, well, that's just how Johnny is. That's just how Sally is. And we don't really zoom out to be like, you don't realize that, worrying about someone else's behaviors is a stressor. Because if that person has just always been that way, you've just let it go. And that is another a stressor that you're like, well, this is just my life. And that, we're not standing up for what our needs. We're so concerned about the other person in the relationship that we are not thinking that is a low level stressor on us. And the last one is being the strong one. And this kind of dovetails into, the last one is that, you're the person that you bottle it all up. You're the person that someone leans on. You're the support. You are the person who's the rock. Like, you could always count on Jen. She's the girl. Like, she's just a rock. You got a problem, you tell Jen, and it's tough because, for many of us, we some of us wear that's our identity, and you wear that identity with a badge of honor. I wore for a long time the identity like I was the hardcore girl. I was like the hustle harder girl. That was my identity, and it's really hard when that's who you identify. And for many of us who feel like I don't know if that's me, like it could be like I covered it up with like being sarcastic. Like I am sarcastic. I think you've understand that. But it's like maybe you having like cravings, your energy crashes, like little things that are just like you're slowly being drained by being the like needed one in your life, and that you're finding these little places to get energy from because other people are like so plugged into you that you need it. And with that, like this last bonus one that just popped into my head is the lack of downtime. I regularly see this with my A++ ladies is that I was like, oh, did you do anything relaxing this weekend? Relax. I basically told them to go have sex with themselves. Like they're like, I'm like, okay, no. And I know I struggle with downtime. It's like just sitting in quiet for like 5 minutes. Can you do it? When you're not scrolling through, the gram of the talk, you're not listening to a podcast, you're not Netflixing, you're just sitting, you're being. And that's one of the things I do a lot with my walks. Even though I tell you I listen to podcasts, like sometimes I have so much buzzing in my head that I just have my headphones on and I'm walking and I'm just kind of like working through stuff in my brain. Sometimes I like to, I have a little bench in my closet and I sit on the bench in my closet and I just sit there and I just have like 5 minutes. I've told you regularly this. I have a friend who like, she sits in her pantry, right? She has one of those like walk-in pantries. She sets a timer when her kids were little. She's like, don't disturb mommy until this is done. Right. And, we all need that, like, I don't know if you ever saw the TV show The Matrix, but like in this TV show, the movie The Matrix, but it's like we all need that time to like unplug from the Matrix and just have like some downtime. So I want you to think about like as you're listening to this, I hope that like my goal is always in my podcast is to raise awareness, right? Never make you feel judged because everything on this thing right here, girl, I identify with, like I many of these, like I said, I'm still in freaking recovery about these things. And, something that it's habits that I work on, sometimes is a daily push. But I want you to think that like, you're not doomed here. Like you don't need to like quit your job and like, move to an ashram in India or anything like that. But what we do need to start recognizing that like this is a thing, like it's not just my life, and take a peek and like what's one of the things that you're like, oh shit, maybe I could start working on this, maybe I could start changing it. Maybe it's saying no without this long explanation. Maybe it's instead of having a glass of wine, you are having like the non-alcoholic version of it. Maybe instead of like, whenever life gets hard, you're not, reaching into the pantry and, taking out a scoop of peanut butter or whatever your scoop of choices, because here's the thing, like progress doesn't start with hustle, right? It starts with honesty. And most of us want to like press down, like, what can I do? How can I go hard? And it's like, how do I take a step back and get clear about what here on the list is really stressing me out, right? Because it's like, and I get that, there's times that like, my husband's yelling at me like, oh my God, Kim, we got to get tax form A, B, and C done, and we got to get it to the accountant. And then, I need you to do this, need you to do that. And I was like, I'm like, oh, and yeah, that's going to happen. But I'm also talking about hey, want to go on vacation? And then I start list making. Or the person who's like, what are we having for dinner 3 weeks from now? Right. How will we have like, 7 months from now, like, oh, what are we going to do for Christmas? Who's hosting? Who's not hosting? Like those are the kind of things that we can start thinking about. Are we like still caught in that like hustle, grind, do, be the person. All right, my friend, I want to hear from you. What hidden stressor is hitting hardest for you right now? Just do me a favor, screenshot this and just let me know how this is landing for you, and share this episode. If you have a bestie, a friend who just needs that loving nudge, and they're carrying around stress like it's their like prized Louis Vuitton bag, let them know and hop into the show notes. I have several podcasts that I've done on all of these different topics that might have a way to kind of help teach you how to stop calling stress and burnout life. All right, Magic Makers, I appreciate you as always, and I will talk to you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Fit Girl Magic podcast. If you've made it this far, yay. I'm thinking you enjoyed the show. Let's continue the conversation on Instagram. You can find me at Kim Jefferson Coach. In order for me to keep sharing this message, do me a favor and leave me a 5-star review on iTunes. While you're there, don't forget to subscribe so that you won't miss an episode. New episodes are available every Wednesday. The Fit Girl Magic podcast is intended to provide you with tips, tools, and strategies that will help you make better decisions about your health. I really appreciate your feedback and your support. Thank you so much.